Good afternoon. Welcome to Problem with Being Awake. My name's Ben. I'll be your host. Now, the reason I've titled this piece what it is my friends keep telling me I'm oppressed. Because we have a culture of people who in academia have been led by some very far left radical professors to believe that the Marxist intersectional victimhood theory chart, which is a massive Venn diagram, is the way to pinpoint where you sit on the oppression hierarchy. And obviously at the bottom is straight white males. Now I'm a straight white 42-year-old male. So people will say, well, why are you talking about this? You haven't got any victimhood. I don't feel any victimhood at all. But I can tell you one thing. A couple of girls started screaming down the road about 5 years ago. And I went to intervene, and they were full middle-aged men, and they left me disabled. So I'm in to the victim triangle, big time in. But I don't want to be. The Venn diagram of intersectional victimhood theory is not the way I want to run my life. I don't want to run my life in the way of the victim, because the victim life is strictly about taking no responsibility for yourself. If you feel like a victim and you feel like you're oppressed the whole time, it's really, it's almost a delusion so that you don't have to do anything with your life or do anything meaningful or introspect or come outside your comfort bubbles or face reality and try and live in the world before you try and destroy it. You know, it's not looking good for them. Luckily, the generation below is all looking much better, healthier, better educated. This is the first generation now, Gen Z, that has come off worse educated than the previous one. It's the first time that's ever happened. And at the same time, it's the first time a generation has become more racist than the generation before it. That's the first time that's happened. So Gen Z need a whole load of work to work this together. But being oppressed and being a victim is not a mentality that you can sustain, because it completely relies on two things. It's called the drama triangle. And at the top you have victim, and then you have perpetrator and rescuer. Now, the perpetrator can be any person, thing, inanimate object, animal, building, idea, anything you can find, and everything that these people who are super wired to take offense to will work. So there's no positivity in being a victim, because when you turn to that rescuer, that's a codependent relationship right there that's been just created. And if you've got a good rescuer, he'll end up comforting you in a way that makes you feel right and therefore feel vindicated in your oppression, the way you vomit it out, frankly. If you don't have if you have a rescuer and you go to them too often and eventually say, sorry, mate, you've got to sort yourself out. Because that is the opposite of being in the victimhood, oppression, Olympic state of mind, is you suddenly take responsibility. Now, so as an example, as I said, I'm a 42-year-old white heterosexual man. So you would look at me and make an assumption, which is what everybody does. No one asks real information from people before they judge them now, not in this current culture. But if you asked me, you would find a few things there, and suddenly you'd find the fact that I was involved in a couple of girls screaming down the road. I went down to help, got them away, got bashed the hell out of, so much so I'm disabled. Now, whoa, I've just gone, in their minds, from the bottom of the chain right up to really quite near the top. I might even compare with some sort of trans person in the victimhood narrative, but I don't choose to. Instead, I choose purpose and try and work out what I'm doing with every day, try and do better things, try and assist my injuries to heal, and take responsibility for my actions going backwards. Is it my fault that I went to the call of a girl? Well, I thought it was one girl, turned up being two. That I went to that call and got beaten to within an inch of my life because it was some middle-aged immigrant Turkish guys who were just, they just bashed me completely. If I decided to make that a victimhood narrative, I could easily have done it, but what does it serve? It serves no purpose, being a victim or feeling oppressed or looking for out for oppression in others, or being a social justice warrior where you're never concerned with the truth. You're concerned with the narrative you want to apply to the truth to change it. It doesn't work. It makes for a hate-filled and bile-filled mind. So no wonder they're so uninclusive of anyone who challenges their viewpoints. They're not inclusive people. They're inclusive if you're in their bubble, and they like to stay there because their bubble reinforces their insane beliefs. And, the woke maniacs,
they are the first generation who looks at the world and decides not to have.
But I choose personal power, so I take responsibility for what happens to me every day that I have to live. I don't take responsibility away from people. And if you've been abused, you don't take the responsibility away from that particular situation or whatever it is. Too many people are saying trauma at the moment. I'm a PTSD therapist. Trauma is quite serious. A lot of people are saying it when it's not trauma. Whatever you do, you cannot get out of this oppression Olympics unless you endanger friendships by being always a rescuer. If you're always moaning on the phone, if they're the same sort of person, then you've got a codependent relationship for life, and you can blame anything as a perpetrator to complain about. And that's kind of how they work in their little bubble groups. But the only way out of it is to take responsibility for the fact that, okay, the world's in a bad place. That doesn't mean that they can be the first generation to not have to live in it before they start to change it. And those attempts are very demonstrated with their wanting to erode colonial history and erode history altogether, really, so they can start afresh. And it's a socialist Marxist movement. And they won't be able to start afresh, not in the Western democracies, not as long as people hold different values and diverse opinions. That's only a good way to use the word diverse now, not about people, but opinions, diverse opinions. If they can take responsibility for their day-to-day, get over what happens in whatever makes them upset. I think it's daily. They all get upset now if they've got the woke mind virus. But, the only way, just take responsibility for your actions. Do things deliberately for your own well-being. Trying to work out why you feel so depressed and anxious, or and maybe even think about if you need some therapy at that age. It's doable, but they just prefer to carry on in their echo chambers. Now, it is. There is help. There is ways to de-brainwash these people, but they need to first take that responsibility step, because otherwise it's not going to work. So, I have videos on that I'm going to bring out, but you don't, if you overrun the bath, you don't get out the mop, you turn the tap off first. Simple. And the tap is very much still on. So with that, I'll leave you there. I'm hoping I'm not speaking to too many people who have that mentality, but if I am, even better, because the way forward is responsibility, and in a bit you'll get a bit of drive and purpose from that. So I'll leave it there. You be good, I'll be lucky, and I'll see you soon.